Hi Nimfam, welcome to 5 Things FPL, the first of the year. I hope you are all well. It's another double game week. Are we all ready for the chaos that this brings? There's plenty to chat about, so let's get Fergie in and get discussing all of the top talking points ahead of double game week 22. Hi buddy, how you doing?
And I'm okay, thanks. Had a crazy new year with all the postponements and doubles and whatever else, just like taking each hour by it comes almost. But I've just had an absolute glorious week of not thinking about FPL. Had a look. Well, I had a look this morning, and I've got flags left, right, and centre. So I'm pretty interested to chat through what we're going to do over the next few days with our teams. That's for sure.
Yeah, we can definitely kind of try and get our heads around it together because it's just been nuts, and all of the postponements and the injuries. It's just been, and AFCON as well. It's just so much going on at the moment. Like, we have to try and get our heads around this for the coming game week. So, let's get into it. And our first discussion point, as always, is our captaincy options for the up and coming game week. Now, there's no Salah to call upon as the set and forget. So I'm assuming some of the main picks will be highly owned double game week players such as Ronaldo, who's 31.5% owned, and maybe Dennis if fit, because he's 38.3% owned. Oh. What's the word there, Fergie? Who are people turning to as the main guys with Salah and Son out ahead of the double game week?
Well, firstly, it's absolutely amazing to have such an open game week for a change. Obviously, it's been kind of dominated by Salah since sort of game week 9, wherever it was, and it's just great to have a look. I put out a poll earlier actually just to get a kind of a pulse on how the community are feeling, and Ronaldo he's quite high actually. He's nearly 40% of the vote out of 4 candidates. I was quite surprised that, just because I think that United have looked really, really poor. Their first game away to Villa, I think, is a tough game, and I don't expect them to get much there at all. Away to Brentford, I wonder whether this is, some kind of recency bias, because obviously they shipped 4 last night. But even so, Ronaldo just hasn't really looked on it. So I'm quite surprised. And I think I'm going to avoid him, maybe at my peril, but I haven't got him in my team. The other ones I'm interested in, you mentioned Dennis, who looks really, really good. Kane is an obvious, other one as well. He's well rested. He plays Arsenal and Leicester, who he does have good records against both teams. Actually, Arsenal have obviously tightened up, and and Leicester are quite poor at the back. But Spurs and Kane without Son, I'm not really sure, and this is why I'm currently erring towards Dennis, to be honest, which is probably answers both your questions in terms of captaincy and Maverick.
Well, because I was going to go on to the Maverick next, but I think you've just pretty much
covered. I don't know. These are just really like initial thoughts. But for me, I don't have Ronaldo or Kane, so maybe I'm a bit biased. But I struggle to see either player really smashing the game week, whereas Dennis's ones away to Newcastle, away to Burnley, I think are pretty decent fixtures actually. And he's currently the way I'm leaning. I think the other option is probably Maddison, who's been in incredible form. They play Burnley and Spurs, but that's where I'm currently leaning. You seemed quite surprised in him. Where are your kind of initial thoughts on captaincy then?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit worried about Ronaldo, if I'm honest. I don't own him currently like yourself, and I am considering getting him in just to cover the kind of percentage owned. And if I did that, then he would be the obvious captain choice. But I did say in my team selection video that King and Kane are also kind of highly up there for me as potential, forwards to bring in. It's just whether or not I'm going to be brave enough now to be able to do that, because whoever it is I bring in there will likely be my captain. So it's a bit mad to go against the grain at this point. It's a real big jump, I think, to go against Ronaldo because he will be the most captain. Now, I did share a post last night which showed that Ronaldo posted on his Instagram that he's not in the country at the moment. So what that even means, I don't know. He could just be having a break, could just be having all these professional footballers can jet off anywhere these days. Not sure what that means COVID-wise, but he definitely looked in sunnier climes, let's put it that way. And we have heard midweek that he has a hip injury, or maybe just a cup injury, I'm not sure. I think I want more information on whether he's back in training before I make that punt, because he will be the standout captain for the week, and that does worry me if I don't go there. But I think he hasn't been brilliant, and there is potential to go away from it. My Maverick pick, I'd like to go for Lookman or Maddison, but I'm unsure about Leicester on the weekend, because of course if they couldn't field enough players midweek, where does that leave them for the weekend? Are they going to miraculously be able to field 11 players midweek? I mean, doesn't look great. So I was thinking Maverick pick completely out there, Lucas Moura, 6.5 million, 2 goals and 3 assists, XG of around 2.28 and XA of around 1.69. So he would be a bit of a kind of completely out there Maverick pick, besides Dennis, obviously.
I noticed with Moura, apologies, Nim, go on.
No.
I'm just going to say, I noticed with Moura, when he came on the pitch on the weekend in the FA Cup and where he scored his goal from, he looked to be playing on that left-hand side where Son usually plays, whereas Moura usually plays a bit deeper or on the right-hand side. So
right.
I think it's quite interesting, just from where, if you think where he picked the ball from and where he ran in from where Son would usually be. So a change of position may actually, suit him potentially, kind of cutting in on his right foot rather than, what he normally does. But it's just an observation from the goal he scored.
Yeah, it'd definitely be interesting. Like, so if you didn't decide to go for Kane and it did look as if Leicester was out and you are thinking about a 2-move strategy like what I'm potentially thinking for a -4, then, Lucas in for Son would definitely free up a fair bit of cash for you. All right, let's move on to discussion point number 2. And I think the main dilemma this week will be the best Son or Salah replacement. Obviously, we've just touched a little bit on Lucas Moura there, but do we go all in on the so-called double game week players here? I know we can discuss about this a little bit more in detail, but what are we thinking about maybe the premium City lads in order to get, like, maybe bunny hop back to Salah?
I'd shout on De Bruyne. I hadn't really considered myself. They have got, is it Chelsea this weekend? They've got
it's a bit of a tougher fixture this week.
Yeah, it's not the easiest fixture. I think I'm assuming a lot of teams have still got a City mid, or maybe Bernardo, maybe Foden. Well, maybe not Foden, obviously, because he was out with COVID. But I personally think with the premiums, I just had a look and listen to after my transfers this weekend. I don't think I've ever had this in the history of FPL. After making my transfers, I've got nearly 9 million left in the bank.
Wow!
And I think it's purely because that there's so much value lower down in kind of the mid-range bracket. Just for example, Bowen. If you don't have Bowen, they play Leeds. I would personally much rather have Bowen against Leeds than De Bruyne. Just that it's personal preference. Jota as well, maybe. They've got they're home to Brentford, who've just shipped 4 as well. I know I mentioned it with Ronaldo, but I'm just not sure De Bruyne home to Chelsea is really worth it. And I was having a think around, okay, I've got 9 million in the bank, right? Which is like, it sounds absolutely crazy, but it also means I can then shift any of my midfielders up to Salah when he returns in a couple of weeks back into one move as well. So we mentioned in replacements. I'm not really keen on any of the premium ones personally. We've mentioned Maddison. We've mentioned Lookman. I know you're pretty keen on Lookman, and I think he looks really, really sharp. I think he's a fabulous player. I thought he was really good at Fulham. and and good at was it Fulham? Am
Yeah.
I going mad? He played for
No,
Fulham
I'm
last
pretty
year.
sure it's
He did,
Fulham.
didn't he? I thought I
Pretty
was going
sure.
mad then.
Pretty
He was
sure.
even good
It's
at Everton
definitely a
as well
white
before
kit.
that. Yeah. Sorry. I
It's
I
all
just had
good.
a moment then. I was like, Fulham, is that right?
Yeah.
And Maury, you've mentioned as well.
Mhm.
Mason Mount could be one for the double as well. The
Yes.
more and more I watch Mason Mount,
Mhm.
he just gets into such great positions, shoots really often as
Yeah.
well for the double. So, I think it could be a good one. But I think if I think if you don't have Bowen yet, or Jota, I think there too, I would be looking to maybe get in ahead of De Bruyne or a premium. Do you fancy any of the premiums?
I think Sterling is going a little bit unnoticed, and I think with Mahrez at AFCON, he'll get more of a look in now. 7 goals and 1 assist this season. Obviously, I quite like KDB, and I quite like the idea of being able to bunny hop along. The only other real premium in that price range with a double would be Fernandez, and I
Mm,
just don't know what to think about Bruno at the moment.
yeah.
Even like, I just like what do we take from what we've seen from him recently? It hasn't been a lot. I mean, he looked like he just turned the game around when he came on the other day, but other than that, we haven't really seen any sparks of the previous Bruno that we all know and love, and especially one that's going to get us any FPL points. So the kind of bunny hop approach seems good, but I think unless you have a strategy where you really don't want to take any hits, then like you, I think it's probably likely best to go lower with your cash and maybe spread it out a bit. But those of us that are sold Salah for Son anyway, will have a bit of cash in the bank. So you're just adding more cash again, aren't you, really,
It
by
is.
downgrading Son. So I think as long as you don't make too many moves with that, then you can probably just use that cash to get Salah back eventually anyway.
I think so. And like I say, there's always a temptation with the premiums to think, I must always have a premium, I must always have a premium. But I think there are plenty of players that are, not only as good as the premiums at the moment, but are outperforming the premiums. I look at my
Yeah.
team for the next game week potentially. If I made a move or two, and I'm not particularly worried about not owning Kane or Ronaldo. I think we also have to think about the next game week as well. Just looking at Watford,
Yeah.
I've got King. If I bring in Dennis, I'll have them for the double with 2 really good fixtures. But after that, they're also home to Norwich in game week 23, which is
Ooh.
the best fixture
Oh, now you're
around,
persuading me.
right?
Oh.
Whereas looking at Kane, Spurs are away to Chelsea, which, as we know, is not the best fixture, and Ronaldo and United are going to have West Ham, which again is not the best fixture. So I think it's worth looking at that as well, and not just looking at it as kind of
Yeah.
I think it's such an open game week that if a captain bangs, it's not going to particularly destroy your rank as much as it would. I can't. Ronaldo will probably have over 100% effective ownership because of his ownership, right? But still, it's just I've been looking at my team. I think, do I really want to put him in where I know I'm going to want to take him out, especially when there's teams such as Aston Villa, for
I know
example.
I'm gonna want to sell the man.
Well, you are, because Salah's back in a couple of weeks. You're going to
Yeah.
need the funds from somewhere, and also there's players like Ollie Watkins in a couple of weeks. I'm looking at with Villa's run, Coutinho signing, who I would personally rather Watkins. So Villa's run goes Everton, Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton, Southampton. I would rather have Watkins against those teams than run just an out of sorts Ronaldo. But it's up for everyone to make their own decision based
Of
on
course.
what they think is going to happen, and with their team. Liverpool's fixtures when he returns, Salah will likely be the highest
Oh,
captain as well
oh
by an
yeah.
absolute mile
You
because
have
they're
to get
fixed.
Salah straight back. The second we know he's back, regardless, I think you have to get him back because I doubt that Klopp's gonna leave him out completely. He might not start, he might come on at the end, or he might start him and bring him off early. But he's Salah. Like you'll want him back in your team for sure. So you need to have that contingency plan, don't you?
This
really?
is it. And he's home to Leicester in 24, so he'll definitely be the standout captain there. Away to Burnley in 25, he'll definitely be the most standout captain there. And home to Norwich in 26. This obviously excludes any potential doubles. It's probably worth saying, but is it worth then having Ronaldo? I think if Ronaldo and Kane were playing out with their skin and scoring loads of goals, I think it's an argument. But at the moment, Antonio, King, Dennis, Bowen, Jota, maybe Watkins, they're just as likely to score as those guys, I feel. So this is my current thinking. But as we know, press conferences and whatever else may kind of change everything.
Well, let's move on to number 3, and this kind of has to do with what Mick Davis put in the chat. He said, did you hear Watkins is a trap? Wish someone had warned me before I bought him in a couple of weeks ago. And I think he did so on a wild card as well. So I think he's had a tough couple of weeks with Watkins there. But who is the player this week if we owned, we'd ship out? Okay, obviously, Son is the obvious one because of his injury. But are there any other players in your team that you're thinking of getting rid of because of form?
I always find this question really, really tough because the way I play the game, I always kind of pick a player for kind of long, for kind of the long term. So I always find it tough to think, do I want to get rid of? I'm obviously getting rid of Son this week. Livramento, if people are still kind of holding on to him, he could be another one. But I'm struggling really to think of anyone to get rid of from my team, just because, like I said, I tend to hold them for the long term. So. I am. So I would say mine. If I still held Salah at this point, I'd be tempted to hold on now because there's only 2 more game weeks. Because you'll be using 2 transfers in 3 weeks to take him out and bring him in. I think if you still held Salah, all the good options at the moment are cheap enough you can afford to hold him. But yeah, I can't really offer a great deal other than that, to be honest, because have you got anyone?
Well, like yourself, Livramento, when there's the likes of somebody like Lowton, I guess, who has a million game weeks to be rescheduled.
That's a good show.
He's 4.4 million. I'd probably be looking, if I had nothing else to do, which of course, I will have. If I had nothing else to do, he might be a shout. Those that got DCL maybe will be considering shifting on this week, I would have thought, because it's a tough one that with the injury, Everton not getting their double game week. That was a tough buy for anybody. I think that must have been a hurt, I think, for a lot of people. So they'll have a bit of a decision to make. I would have thought, and I think the obvious player would be a Dennis or a King in that situation. Or as you say, if you wanted to go early, but you're not going to get double game week out, then maybe an Ollie Watkins. What do you think of the West Ham lads for a long-term hold, Fergie? Because a lot of us will have gone triple up, won't we?
I'm all over them. I think they're amazing options. Especially Bowen, but looking at their fixtures now, for the next few weeks, obviously they've got Leeds at home this week. They just beat them 2-0 last week, albeit it was a weakened Leeds side in the FA Cup. I can see them scoring. I say this, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, they're playing this evening against Norwich, hoping for some returns this evening.
Come on, Bowen. Dawson hat-trick.
Exactly. You got Leeds on the weekend. They've then got Man United away, which is classed as a red difficult fixture, but it's just not. If you watch that Villa game the other night in the FA Cup, how United kept a clean sheet, I don't know. And then they go home to Watford, away to Leicester, home to Newcastle. I mean, it's amazing running fixtures. They're in great goal scoring form. They would be the players, especially Bowen, who I would be kind of eyeing up over anyone at the moment. Like I mentioned earlier, if you haven't got Kane, Ronaldo, or Bowen, I'd be going for Bowen, I think. Sorry, I say this. Obviously, the two have got the double, obviously, whereas as Bowen haven't. We have to consider that. But as strange as it is to say, I've got my eye on West Ham and Watford, lads, are the players at the moment. And when have we ever said that before?
I know. You gotta love it. Guys, if you're enjoying the stream at the moment, please pop a like on it. I would love to get 30 likes on the stream. That'd be great. So please do that. We have Matthew said Egypt lost their first game. If they lose their next game, Salah could be back as early as next week. So that's quite interesting.
That would be mental, wouldn't it?
It would. Let's move on to number 4. It's a little bit about what we've discussed already, but, we've chatted about who to get rid of. Anyone else we'd be considering, because there are a few people on a free hit. Rubber Ducky is on a free hit. So there's 3 double game week players, 2 of which are Chelsea defenders, in free hit town all the way for him. So is there anyone else outside of the obvious picks we should be looking at for game week 22?
Well, we've mentioned a lot of them, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to have a think off the top of my head. Like Brighton players, can be quite...
McAllister, 4 goals and 1 assist, 5.3 million. He's looking pretty good at the moment.
If Trossard's fit, I really like him as a player as well. I feel he could be, I think he's quite cheap, but he's class a midfielder, but he plays up front. Mopai is he's always there or thereabouts, isn't he? He's always causing some kind of drama. I wouldn't touch Brentford at all. With Spurs defenders potentially, Sanchez, he's always good for a head of a corner. Reguilon's a bit of a funny one because he seems to be sharing minutes a little bit more, either with Doherty or Sessegnon, but Royal seems pretty, nailed on that right hand side. I know he didn't perform incredibly well in their last game. He seemed to be quite wasteful, but it doesn't really matter when you're just looking at fantasy points. So I think he could maybe be an option as well, even though chance of Spurs clean sheets maybe against Arsenal and Leicester is maybe not the best. Chelsea defence, so they're way to Man City. I think City will score, and I think Brighton might as well. I got to be honest, I wouldn't be that keen on Chelsea defence because Brighton have got a knack of scoring goals, and Chelsea, have hardly been defending well. So the ones we've said, like so Watford forwards. I'd be nervous about not playing West Ham players, I would say, and players like Jota, Trent as well. It's very easy to overlook these. I've done it myself a million times, which is why I know how much it hurts. Because you take out really good players for double game weekers, and in the environment we're in at the moment as well. I just be a little careful because again, who's to say the second games go ahead, right? As people have just felt. So Maddison, Lookman, Mount, Mora, Dennis, King. They're all, I think they're probably the best ones.
What do you think of the name on everyone's lips at the moment, the Cucurella fella for Brighton? 6 clean sheets now for Brighton. He has only had the 1 attacking return, 1 assist, but everyone seems to just absolutely love him as an option at the moment.
He's got amazing hair. He's definitely got, but he's like his XH is absolutely amazing. I think,
his XH.
No, I think he's
a bit jealous there.
A really good option. I'm
we
jealous.
could get you a wig.
Oh, flipping a wig for the stream. I think he's a really good option. I can't argue with it really. He's not really someone I've massively looked at, but I probably more because I just haven't looked at him rather than than I don't think he's a good option. So looking at his fixtures, actually, I was just having a quick look, and after this week, so they go Leicester. They do have a blank, don't they, in game week 24? It's the only thing I'd maybe say. They're away to Leicester. Yeah, I maybe wouldn't do it yet because they're away to Leicester. You fancy Leicester to score, and then they blank. After that, though, they do go Watford, Burnley, Villa, Newcastle. So maybe after that would be a better time to bring him in. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I've actually said in my video at the beginning of the week that we have to stop sleeping on Wolves' defence as well, because Wolves just insane at the moment, and we're all just like, double game week, and everyone's just going, and Wolves with another clean sheet. We're just completely ignoring them, and I think, it's definitely something that if you're wild carding and you can put one on the bench, or you're thinking more long term and you're happy with the double game week players that you have and the single game week players that you have this week, then they're definitely somebody you could be getting a move on, I think, for the coming game weeks. And I just think they're kind of fixture proof at the moment in defence. They just seem to be smashing it out of the park, really. So, okay, well.
Is there anyone else you've got a name of, who you got your eye on?
Nobody other than those obvious. Gordon's Alive kind of piqued my interest there last week, but I think it's all going to depend now on, who I decide to go for, whether I decide to go for Ronaldo or Kane up top, or whether I decide to go cheaper, really, and then I think that'll dictate my other move in midfield for Son. Because obviously I think I got about 6.9 million in the bank. So if I decide I want Ronaldo, then obviously selling Son, I can still go fairly expensive, but it'd be more around the kind of 6-7 million, more like Madison area. But obviously that'll depend then whether Leicester are playing. And if I decide to go for King, then my world's, King, or even a single game week player, maybe like Ollie Watkins. Donny says with El Ghazi heading to Everton, Ings will be on pens now. So Villa double in 23, he would be the preferred striker ahead of Ollie Watkins. It's another kind of just to chuck that in there. And of course, with there being the announcement today, for the 7 million for Coutinho, then I think, he could potentially become an option as well. But would I get him in ahead of double game week player? Not too sure. Which actually brings us on brilliantly to the fifth and final discussion point. And I guess a lot has to do with some of the previous questions we were chatting about. And that is, do we go all in on the double game week players, or should we be free hitting and discarding some of these single game week players with good fixtures? Because you were just saying just a second ago, there's so many players there that you just don't want to get rid of this week. West Ham guys, Jota, we see this big double game week, and I think our reaction is to kind of go all in. But are we disregarding some of the single game week players just to get double game week players in?
I think so, and I see it time and time again, is people just go absolutely crazy for double game weeks, and they're usually the people who just haven't been stung in the past. I played a free hit. It must have been about 5-6 years ago now, and I took out Dele Alli and Harry Kane. They had a single game day. They were playing Stoke. That's how long ago it was. And
Wow.
And my free hit team scored, I think it was 39 points. And my existing team would have scored over 80 points.
Oh,
and
ouch.
It absolutely, well,
Ouch.
you can imagine, can't you? You can imagine all the planning, all the everything, and Spurs are my own team, right? You've got a double-edged sword where Spurs beat Stoke 4-0. Ali scored 2 and Kane scored 2.
Oh, my word.
And I'm there every goal. I'm like cheering. It's almost like a dagger through the heart. I had them both in my pre-free hit team. And I personally think when you look at free hits, you don't just have to look at the players that you're potentially bringing in. You've got to look, at the players you're replacing. I'm looking at my looking at my team now, and there are 5 players. Well, 4, 5. Well, no, I'll go with all 5. So I would go Trent, Cancelo, Bowen, Jota, and Antonio. Players I would not want. I would not want to take out of my team this week. So that's 5 straight away. The rest of my team, I'll probably have King and Dennis and Rudiger, who all have doubles as well, which just leaves players like Bernardo maybe home to Chelsea, or I could bench him maybe. Gray plays Norwich away if he's fit, which is a really good fixture as well. I've got De Gea in goals.
I really want
doubles.
Gray to do something because I've been bigging him up
for
ages, and I kind of persuaded you to get him, and then no double. So I really want him to go big on the weekend.
I'm just looking at the double fixtures, and there's not even one fixture for me really which stands out. Like Burnley versus Watford, you maybe expect Watford to pip it, but it could be really close. Brighton and Chelsea is likely to be a close, low-scoring game. Yeah. Leicester and Spurs, well, it could be any score. Both teams are so inconsistent at the moment, and Spurs without Son, who's a fantastic asset for them. Brentford and United may be the only fixture where you would potentially expect, United to score a couple of goals. But it's the final game on the Wednesday. We have no clue about Ronaldo's fitness or not. It's the second game as well, so you're not going to get any clues.
The
That's
only
maybe
thing
the
with
only
that,
one.
though, is making me think, not owning Ronaldo and just being on that kind of tightrope of potentially having a green arrow and then him playing and scoring, and you're just like, there it goes. That's the only thing where you're
I think
like,
if you wanted to cover it, if you wanted to cover the game week, and maybe get Ronaldo, because it looks like he's going to be the most popular captain, you guess. But I think to go on a free hit, it's obviously team dependent. I know we say this all the time, but obviously it is, because this is my team, right? Not a lot of others will have all these kind of players, and that's fair enough. But I'm looking at game week 30, and that looks like it could potentially be a massive, massive blank.
Yeah.
Where maybe only 4, 6, 8 teams even play. I think it also depends if you played your first free hit or not. So I've played mine, so I'm probably a bit more, a bit less. Sorry, I'm more reluctant to play my second one now. But I just personally this week I just can't see a massive deal of upside, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of single game week teams with a sprinkling of doublers beat a full double team. And don't forget, when you do free hit, you're also left with the players that you've got in your team this week as well. You've got that to go back to. So as long as everyone can just assess for their own team. But I think if you're really, really on the fence and you're just doing it through FOMO, I think again personally.
Yeah,
are you kind of going all in, or?
Honestly, I'm still deciding. I think it'll very much depend on the news as to whether Ronaldo is in the country, whether he's fit, whether he's trained. I think that'll make a big difference for me in terms of going all in on the double game week players. At the moment, I'm planning not to free hit. Just because, like yourself, I like too many of my single game week players to lose them, if I'm honest. I think the only thing that may change my mind last minute would be that we're hearing some rumblings that there are a lot of cases at Leeds with COVID again, which could pull that West Ham game. If that happens, I would maybe consider a free hit, because I'd be losing 3 players.
I'm tripled up as well.
So yeah, I think I would consider it then. But for the moment, I think I'll have like 4, maybe 5 double game week players, and I'm pretty happy with that. If I lost one, I'd probably be a bit gutted, but to be honest, we could have 7 double game week players start the game week and actually only end up with 4 in the end anyway, the way things are going. So, I don't love the idea of going all in on this one. There's still too many variables with COVID. There's, like you, I don't really love a lot of the double game week players. I'm not convinced that we're going to get doubles out of all of them. So yeah, I don't think I will be going all in for double game week 22. Focus says that he has gone to Zoko for this coming game week. So nice shout there, Focus. And welcome Rafiki to the chat. Good to see you guys. Please do pop us a like if you've enjoyed, and that is it. That's our 5 things FPL for double game week 22. Have an amazing game week. Let us know if you enjoyed the stream in the comments below. Please like, sub, and hit that notification bell so you know when we're going live next, which will hopefully be the same time, roughly next week. Maybe same day, maybe a different time, but same day at least. You can find a link to Fergie's Twitter below, but it's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Fergie.
Best of luck all. Hope you absolutely smash the game week as usual.
Thanks for joining us, buddy. It's been a really good one. I feel like I've had a bit more of a clarity now around my game week and what to do with it. So that's always good.
Fantastic.
Nymphria.
And best of luck for you, Nym, obviously.
Thank you. Nymphria times Fergie out.